Welcome everyone to the BBSim Brigade call for October 25. We have few items on the agenda. The first thing I wanted to talk about quickly is a dashboard update that Zach did so we can better track what is going on. As you can see, maybe you have already seen this, we have reworked this bright column in the dashboard so that the bugs are listed at the tops, and we only list in progress and to do items in this panel, and we moved everything else into a new panel down below. In this way, it's much easier to track what is still to be worked in BBSim. I don't think it's needed to discuss about this, but just wanted to point it out. Second item that we have on the agenda is that BBR is finally merged. We managed to scale it up to 256 ONU consistently, and we collected some metrics that I published here in the repository. We are still seeing some issues when running with 500 ONUs. I'm still tracking down those issues, but there is something that is going wrong with the DHCP packets that we are generating. If you are interested in knowing more, I added some details into the corresponding issue. I added all the logs that I have. So far, the issue looks to be that we are assigning the same transaction ID to multiple DHCP packets. So there are some filters and something, but basically when we scale up to 64 ONUs on 8 PON ports, we can see that for this unique transaction ID, we have 8 discover packet that goes out, 7 offer comes back, BBSim send back 7 request, and the DHCP server sends us back 6 acknowledgement packets. So I'm still in the process to debug this issue, but at least we have a track to follow. The last thing I wanted to talk about BBR was a quick demo that I tried to give last week and failed because I wasn't able to share my screen. So unless there is any question on what I said so far on BBR, I will go ahead with the demo. Okay, I guess that means no question. So can everyone see the screen? Is the font big enough?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. So in the top window, I have BBSim already running. Is running, as you can see, in a container on the host machine, no Kubernetes, no nothing. And we started it with 64 ONUs on 2 PON port for a total of 128. In this window below, I'm just going to run BBR passing 2 PON ports and 64 ONUs per PON port as argument. As soon as this starts, it will start faking all the messages that Volta and Honors will send down to BBSim to run the ONUs to completion. Okay, as we can see, BBR basically waits for all the ONUs to transition through the states, then sends the EPOL flow, send the DHCP flow, and waits for the packet. And when it sends out the DHCP packet, then it calls that ONU complete. And we can see that we have 128 of 128 ONUs completed, and they are all matching the expected state. If something goes wrong with BBR, we can just grab the logs and filter them for the serial numbers and see exactly which ONU got stuck in which state. I'm still working on setting up a test like this in Jenkins that works periodically for 64, 128, and 256 ONU to collect some metrics. I still have some issues with the pipeline itself, but they should be resolved by today. So we should have a pipeline running by next week. Is there any question?
Hey, Matteo. Just a quick clarification.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've gone over this before, but maybe I wasn't clear on it before. So BBR is basically emulating what Volta and Onos do, so that you can. It's like a stub for those things, so that you can just test BBSim in isolation.
That's correct.
Okay.
So
Great.
BBR, of course, is much simpler than Volta and Onos combined. It doesn't care about many of the details. It doesn't generate all the flows that Volta and Onos generates. But what we want to do with BBR is just to send enough messages to BBSim to stress him out. So the point is that each time an ONU comes up, there are roughly 300 OMCI messages that gets exchanged between the ONU and the adapter in Volta. And we are stubbing all of them with BBR and BBSim. After that, we just get few flows and few packets for EPOL and DHCP. We get 10 EPOL flows per ONUs and 6 data plane flow for ONU. So it's not really important, in my opinion, to mock all of those flows, because that will not make that big of a difference at scale. What really will affect performances for BBSim is the OMCI exchange.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Moving on this week.
One question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matteo. Regarding the whole, it's related to the DHCP part of it. So because as you probably have heard, for instance, at DT there, DHCP is not being used, and the EPOL isn't as well. So currently, DHCP server started automatically. And it's fairly hard coded, let's say, in the code, and also now BBR also assumes that a DHCP requests are sent from the ONUs. So how do we plan to deal with that? Is it something that we can make configurable, or?
Yeah, totally. We can absolutely make it configurable both in BBSim, whether to start or not the DHCP server, and whether to start the authentication and DHCP process. And we can absolutely do the same in BBR. So BBR basically check that a state is matched. So instead of matching for this state, we just want to check that the OMCI exchange is complete.
Right. Okay, good. So I might pick that up.
Okay, let me just add it as a task. Otherwise, that will go lost. Okay, can I assign that to you, Zdravko?
Yeah.
I think that was a yes.
Yes. Sorry.
No problem. Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. Thank you for making the point. And if you want, we can chat offline, but it should be fairly straightforward to make those changes.
Makes sense.
Okay. Back. Was there any other question? No. Okay. Back to the agenda. This week, we found and fixed two important bugs. The first one was tracked under Volta 2090. William found it, debugged it, and fixed it. Basically, there was an error in the way we were listening for the assignment of gem ports to the ONU via OMCI, and that was causing some inconsistencies in the EPOL process. So William fixed that, and now it's reliably working. I think it tried up with up to 16 ONUs with ONOS and Volta. In a similar thing was found by Andy when he was trying to authenticate and enable multiple ONUs on multiple PON ports. As part of the packet-ins, we are reporting the port number, that is basically the UNI port ID, and we were not always reporting the correct port number. That is because BBSim is using an OMCI library that basically replies a dump of the OMCI messages that were captured from a real ONU, and the real ONU reports multiple UNIs while BBSim for now supports only one. So that has been fixed, and now, if I'm correct, and the verification tests are running with two ONUs on two different PON ports. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. We're running that test with 4 total ONUs every half hour, and last night was the first night we were doing that, but it's been really solid. So thanks for that fix.
Oh, thank you for finding that bug. Okay, next item in the list. I don't know if you have seen it. I sent out an email on the brigade mailing list with a proposal to add IGMP support in BBSim. This is mainly needed by the ONOS FCAPS brigade because they need to have the ability to emulate IGMP packets to start capturing informations and display them in Grafana and Kibana and aggregate them and do all the nice thing they want to do with them. So I'm not a big expert in IGMP. I did some reading and I looked at the code in ONOS. It looks to me that the ONOS IGMP proxy application is basically listening for these 4 packets that are basically representing IGMP join and IGMP leave. So the proposal is to start implementing some code in BBSim to send out as first the IGMP join and the IGMP leave in a very simple fashion, so that it will be possible to specify through a command like this whether a particular new should join or leave a group. In the future, to support extended testing, it will be nice to have the ability to define some scenarios. I just sketched out one, but that's not really important what is the scenario, but would be nice to have the ability to get someone used to join different group and then at a different interval move around from the groups, leave them, rejoin, just to generate traffic and in a way that can help us scale testing the ONOS application. Is there any question about this? I've seen a mail from Shubham and Ayun that I still need to reply at with some technical question, but maybe we can quickly discuss what we plan to do.
Yeah, Matteo, we have sent you a mail with the queries which we are having in the implementation part. So are we going to discuss them now?
So we can, let's do like this. If that works for everyone, we can just go through the last point that I had in the agenda, and then we can go back to the discussion. So if someone is interested, can stay on the call. Otherwise, we can just stay. Does that work?
Okay. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so the last item that I had was triggered by a discussion we had internally at ONF on Wednesday, where we started talking about documentation, and we're basically in the situation in which each different project we have at ONF has a different format for documentation, and that is, of course, an organizational mess. So ideally, we will try to unify them, and so far the preference looks to be to move to RST files and use Sphinx to generate a static website. This is an example of one of the ONF project that is already using this format. I think it's pretty cool. It generates a pretty nice browsable guides. It let you search for everything you need into the documentation. It automatically builds navigation, etc. And you can, of course, add images, pieces of code, and you can do a lot of fancy things. So if no one is opposed to that, I'm going to move the few markdown files we have in the repository to this new format and start generating a live documentation. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah, fine from my side.
Works for me.
Okay, so I'm going to move what we have and see if we can generate a static website and publish it maybe on the GitHub pages. That was the easy part. Then I realized that there is not much documentation about BBSim, and I think it will be nice to add some more. My thinking is that the first thing we need to document is the ONU state machine and the way OMCI, EPOL, and DHCP flows and packets are exchanged between Volta and BBSim. Is there something else we need to document that is more important than that? So maybe let me rephrase the question. Do we think that the information we have now in the guide are enough for someone to start building and running BBSim? Or to create development images and try them out?
So to be honest, I've not actually looked at the existing documentation. So yeah, I'm not sure where it falls short right now, but I'll definitely take a look.
Okay, so I think these are the first three things we need to do for documentation. I'll try to allocate some time early next week to sketch this out, so everyone that come in the project has a pretty good idea of how things works. Another thing that is probably important to add is how to debug failures.
Yeah, this looks good. I always like to see good coverage in things like tutorials and how-tos, just for the newbies to get started. So I think things like ONU state machine documenting that's and OMCI messages, that's probably important for completeness, but we should make sure that we have like the path for getting people started in good shape first.
Good. Okay.
And debugging failures, that might be part of that too.
Yeah, I'm moving it up.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay.
Another thing maybe worth documenting once we get a little bit farther along with it is the APIs that we're exposing so that they can be used in scripts and so on.
Okay. Are you talking about the REST APIs?
Yeah, for instance, yeah.
Yeah, because
REST API, not the OpenOLT API. But
yeah. No, the BBSim API. Yeah, I agree. So I think the gRPC APIs should be fairly self-descriptive, meaning that if you just go look at the protos for the gRPC API, you should have a fairly good idea of what are the endpoints, what are the information that you can get out of it. For REST, I agree that it would be nice to generate some kind of documentation. Do you know if the...
I mean, also, it doesn't have to be, everything doesn't have to be extensive, but maybe just have also a few pointers so people unfamiliar with the project start using it, they know where to look. Like, for instance, a pointer to the protos. It might be, it's fairly obvious, I guess, for us, but... And I can have a look if there's a possibility to export the REST API documentation directly into the RST format. So,
yeah. So
because from gRPC, from the gateway, we can generate a Swagger.
Okay, yeah, then I think like
from
if we
that
can
probably be
generate a
converted to.
Swagger file and just expose it, I think that's more than enough. Because once you have the file, we can either expose an endpoint like /docs that loads Swagger and parse that file. I think with that we did that for XOS a while ago, and I think Onos has that too. But also as a starting point, having just the Swagger.yaml file will be great, because then one can go on the Swagger website and just use it. Okay. I think we're done with the agenda, so we can go back to the IGMP discussion. If you are interested in it, you are very welcome to stay. If not, feel free to drop out of the call, because I know for some of you is late afternoon on a Friday.
Hey, Matteo. This is William.
Yep.
Yeah, so I just want to say one thing. It's not straightforward. So I've been testing the new BBSim with Volta and the whole system. And it's since it does all the messaging concurrently, each ONUs concurrently, it's stressing the system a lot more now. And it's really defining 2 issues this week in other components. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. One in the core and one in OpenLT. Just thought I would mention it.
Okay, yeah, that's great news. It's good to know that what we are doing is actually serving its purpose. Okay, thank you everyone for the call. Now let's go back to the IGMP support discussion. I can go and find the questions that Arjun and Shubham sent me. I barely read the email because it's still pretty early here in on the West Coast. But so for the first question, for the 2-state, I think that they should be able to go into this state from either ones of the success state, meaning when the ONU is enabled or when the ONU is in authentication succeeded, or when it is in DHCP ACK received. Does it make sense?
Yes, Matteo. That's what we were concerned about. Like if EA4 is successful or if DHCP is successful, after that we want to trigger BBSim, IGMP in BBSim, right?
Yeah. So.
Okay.
I'm trying to take notes as we go. So. Okay. Then I'm not sure I understand your question here. Should we need to add more events in the future, like checking available groups or checking availability of IGMP flows?
Yes, because I remember I have seen IGMP flows trapping in OLT and ONU in ONOS earlier. And in current state machine events, we have certain events like check EAPOL flows or add EAPOL flows, something like that. So what I'm asking is that do we need to check for IGMP flows as well before sending a joint request, whether IGMP flows has been tracked or not?
So that's a good question. The reason we are checking for the EPOL flow and DHCP flow is that we want to automatically transition the ONU to the new state and start sending out packets of that kind. I don't think that's needed for IGMP for now, but then it shouldn't be a problem to add it in the future. I'm thinking it's not needed because the IGMP flows will most likely arrive to the ONU together with the DHCP flows. And so we cannot move the ONU to two states in parallel. We need to decide what to do with it. But I think it's fine to manually trigger IGMP messages. So for now, I will say
Okay.
one nice thing we may want to check is that before sending IGMP packets, we may want to check that we have received an IGMP flows, but that's optional. For this question, whether we should save or not the IGMP group in BBSim, I leave that call to you. I think for the first implementation, it's not required. It will probably be a nice feature in the future, but
Okay. So currently we have started implementing version 2 join and leave. So for now, just for initial purpose, we will do it without saving the group details. And after we are done with implementing IGMP join and leave for version 2, we'll think on this.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
Yeah. If you want to start sending patches with the code, even if it's not complete, feel free to do.
Okay. Okay, fine. We'll start submitting patches. How much we have done, so that by the time we work on code, if there is any review or any changes required, that can be captured.
Yeah. So when you send patches on Gerrit, someone will take a look and leave comments or just +1 or +2 it if the code looks good. And I think it's good to start submitting patches early so a reviewer can kind of see the evolution of the code instead of finding a very big patch.
Yeah, all right. We'll start doing that.
Okay, and the answer to this last question is again your call. If the definition in the Go packet library serves your purpose, sure, use it. We are using it to generate EPOL and DHCP packets. So it's already imported in BBSim. It should be.
Yeah, okay. This question came in our mind because all the attributes in the message format, IGMP message format, those attributes and all of those simple packet are supported in this IGMP.go library. But in this case, we want custom packet, right? We want ONU ID. We want ONU ID also, right? Just to maintain the track, like which ONU has sent the request.
Yeah, but I don't think that is within the packet itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not in the default packet structure. So for that, do we need to construct the customized packet of IGMP? If that is the case, then we need to have another. Yeah, we need to make additional changes in message types.go file.
Oh, if you need message type.go, you are referring to this guy here. Oh, wrong folder. Are you referring to these message types?
Yeah, there is a file in this package message types.go. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, so you can make all the changes you need in this. You can make all the changes you need in the BBSim code.
Okay. Okay.
But so like these are internal messages in BBSim to notify the single news of the events, but they are not related with the actual packet we are sending out.
Okay.
So feel free to make any changes you need to do to this file, and then we can go back and look at the code and see. But absolutely make all the changes you need.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to discuss?
No, that's all from my side for now. If I'll have any additional queries or any more clarifications, then I'll get back to you on Slack or mail.
Yeah, I was going to say just let's chat on Slack or emails. If we send emails, it will be good to send them out on the brigade mailing list, so everyone is aware of what is going on and can chime in with new ideas or comments.
Yeah, sure. We'll do that.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining the call, and talk to you next Friday, and probably chat with you before then that.
Thanks, Matthew, for the clarification.
Have a good weekend, everyone.